could totally see how these are like the way to go. Like if you're like truly off grid,
Yeah.
like yeah, I mean you're putting a lot of pressure and time on the chainsaw, but you buy a good one and it'll power through it. And like, I totally see the value of these things. I'm going to talk through some of the lessons learned from using the sawmill the first time and some tips and tricks that I picked up along the way. I've got the rip chain on, and I've taken the dog spikes, I believe they're called, off. That way it would fit properly in the mill and I could maximize the saw length. Uh, when putting this on, the main concern is that you're not hitting the chain at all, so it should be able to spin freely without touching anything. And make sure that you tighten down evenly and very securely, as there's a lot of vibrations coming off of the saw. So I'm using a rock here to knock the dogs in. I didn't have a hammer handy. You should really use a hammer or even a sledgehammer to really knock those in so that you don't see the wobble that you've got here. I've reset the rails now. I've got those dogs in a lot better, and I've used the stabilizing pins and really tighten those down. The one thing that you really need to check with those pins, which you're going to see here in a second, is make sure that your saw is not going to hit them. Later on, when I was doing this, I didn't film the second log that I planked out, but if you just run the saw along the edge, you can use kind of the front part to check the depth of that first cut to make sure that you're not going to hit anything. Because I have to back it out here in a second, readjust to make the cut deeper, and then start again. So just be very careful with those pins. You got to make sure that they're not too high, and you got to make sure the pins aren't too low. So tip here, use wedges. Don't just pick up rocks from around the area. I left mine up at the shed and was too lazy to go get them. It would have made my life significantly easier, and this cutting process would have been a lot easier had I just gone up and got the wedges. The rocks ended up working, but it definitely would have been a lot easier with wedges. I used a lot of different methods to cut the flanks. The one I found that worked the best was keeping the nose of the saw slightly in front of the back of the saw, and it allowed good chips to come out. I tried a rocking back and forth motion. You'll see that a little bit later. It worked pretty well, especially towards the front and the back. I'm adjusting one of the leveling pins here. It had vibrated up on me, and as I moved forward, my saw would have hit it and wouldn't have been able to go forward. It wouldn't have hurt the blade at all because it vibrated up, but it's something to keep an eye on. You don't want those to be above the plane of the track. As you get to the end of the log, I found it much easier to run the nose as far forward as I can. It just helps keep everything level and stable and use that track as much as possible. Same thing with the beginning. When you're starting off the log, running that nose as far forward as possible.
We have a flank.
We have a flank.
When you finally have that first cut done and you don't have to use the rails anymore, there's a lot less to think about and a lot less to worry about. It's a very smooth process to just go through and cut these slabs. As I get to the end of this log, you can see where the wedges would have been really helpful as the chainsaw starts to bind and make it very difficult to cut through the end. With the exception of getting the log started and the ending, it was so easy, I even got Vera to help me out.